Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Euphoric, the podcast. And I'm graced today to be with Tracy Frederick. I met Tracy when she enrolled in the Empowered AF Coach Certification Program, and I've just been watching her grow this incredible business and retreat company that I can't wait to share with you guys. But Tracy, why don't, in your words, you share with the audience a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Thank you so much, Karolina, for having me today. First, I do really want to thank you. You've changed my life really far beyond the certification. The certification's amazing because you offer a real robust program and a business piece, but we get so much coaching in there and just personal growth. And even before that, just listening to you is inspiring. So thank you.
I'm super touched. Tell
Ah.
us more about you now.
Okay. What's happened with me now, it's interesting. I was a trial attorney for over 20 years, doing criminal defense, public defender, a lot of that, and then went out on my own and had my own practice. And I loved it, and I still love it. And I'm very passionate about it. But it came to a point because of a lot of reasons that I was overwhelmed and it just wasn't fitting into my life anymore. And at one point, I needed to step back because my son became very ill. And there was no way I could do it with how sick he was. He developed a serious autoimmune disorder. And so I stepped back from it. And in that time, was already doing personal development work and deep into coaching and had gone alcohol free and done all these things and was listening to you and so many other podcasts. Ironically, in that time frame, I'd said to myself at one point, I don't know how it happened. I said, you know what? Maybe I will do coaching, but I'll do it if Karolina has a coaching certification. I hadn't even met you. I hadn't been coached by you. And I'm no kidding. It was 2 or 3 weeks later that you announced your certification. And so that was the beginning into coaching. And while there, I've since opened up an international women's retreat business with a business partner called Go Limitless, where we focus on helping type A successful women find some clarity, get unstuck in just 5 days on the retreat. And we also offer group coaching upon return home. And recently, I've kind of dove into a whole new area of coaching new managers that are public defenders in the public defender system in the United States. And that has been incredibly rewarding because I believe so much in that work. And I'm able to take my time in experience and directly still impact the clients. So that's been great. So that's what I've been up to.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for sharing. I love that transformation story and just like you said, like really honing in on what this next phase of your life looks like. So let's pick it apart a little bit and tell me a little bit, I worked in a university, so I have that background. I work with a lot of women who are in other corporate or professional fields. Like, what is it like to be in that defense attorney role? What kind of lifestyle are you living? Like, what's preoccupying your mind all the time? How are you able to have any sense of work-life balance? So take us back a little bit into that world.
So I will tell you that I did not have a sense of work-life balance. It is all-encompassing. I was a trial attorney, and for a lot of that, I was trialing very serious, high-profile cases. And so when you're on trial, it's all you do. I mean, it's you eat, sleep, and drink the case, and you can't stop thinking about it. At least I couldn't. Not only that, but you're also super passionately connected to your clients, and you want them to succeed, right? You are so vested emotionally. I found it very, very difficult as a mom to continue to balance that. Like I had these needs at home and I love my children so much and I wanted to be there and I wanted to be involved. I tried to step back by going part-time really early on, right before my daughter was born, my oldest. But it really wasn't part-time. Like we thought it would be part-time, but it wasn't as part-time. And so now I wonder because I do think some people are able to manage it and they are able to compartmentalize more effectively. And that's something I'm working on coaching people on that are still in it. But it's difficult. It's something that becomes all consuming because the truth of the matter is your clients are in crisis and things are an emergency. And so when someone's arrested at 3 a.m., you need to answer the phone. You have to. So it's a lot.
Yeah, yeah. And what do you think drove you into the field in the first place? Like, what was it when you were younger that
It's interesting. I don't really know. I loved reading crime novels and things like that since I was really young. Ironically, when I went to law school, I didn't know that I wanted to do criminal defense. I just thought, okay, I'm a great straight A student. I'm going to go to law school. I hated law school, hated it. And after the first year in law school, I interned at the San Diego Public Defender's Office that summer, and I knew that's what I was going to do. And so finally, I had a reason to stay in law school because I saw the job that I actually wanted to do. And I never looked back. The second I started it, I just absolutely loved everything about it.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's amazing to me too that like there's so much out there today that was such a dream before for us in the sense of like what was modeled to us by previous generations, you know, and but the like demand of those jobs has like never really incorporated the whole humanness of us, right? Like you're a mom and you have a family and there's needs at home, you know, and yet you're like 100% have to be on over here. And it's like there's no way to even do either of those completely wholly all the time, you know what I mean? And so I know that that's maybe something that's changing in more corporate environments too, of like really embracing the wholeness of people and stuff like that. But I also see so many people fleeing into entrepreneurship because it's like, I can't do it with this like balance. I can't do it with this company. I can't do it with these demands. And I'm curious, as someone who's now working with people who are kind of maybe newer into the field or, you know, kind of embracing that management role, what would you say for people who like can actually shape the next culture and generation of that work-life balance?
It's really interesting that you asked that because I have been very cognizant of that because I'm thinking I have an influence here, right? Like I can work with these managers to positively influence the young lawyers that are coming up, and hopefully have it be a little bit different than it was when I came up. One thing I always say right on the get is do not be emailing people on weekends. Don't be emailing them at night because I know if I get the email, I feel the need to respond. So don't even reach out unless you have to. Sometimes there's an emergency, but so many of us are just nonstop working because of the devices. And we're shooting those emails off, thinking, oh, they can look at it tomorrow, but they're going to see it tonight at 9 p.m. and they're going to feel obligated to respond to it. So that is one small thing that I think it can make a big difference. And the other thing is, I ask the people that I'm coaching, you know, how are you doing at home? How's your balance? Are you able to, you know, let's talk about ways that you can manage this because you can't have a full caseload plus a full management caseload. And you're telling me you're working all day Sunday and you've been doing this for 25 years. That's too much. Like you can't do that. Your body's not going to sustain that. So I think having those like real candid conversations with people, especially when I've been there, it's a little bit easier. You know, attorneys by nature are obstinate. We all are. We think we know everything. It's just the personality. And so it's been interesting coming into someone who's been there. I can say, listen, you know, I've been there. You've seen me be there. And it's not healthy. So I'm trying to just instill the importance of self-care, however that may look, but really just honoring the time that you do have, you know, your personal time, whether it's with your family or a hobby, you need to have something else and don't feel guilty about it. Do
Yeah,
it, you
yeah,
know?
for sure. I think the more and more that, you know, I've done this work too, it's like easier to tell who has a better, and I want to say the word mental health, but I actually don't because I don't want to categorize this as like, oh, the mental health issue or not. So I think I'm going to choose the word emotional health, right? Like who has a
Mhm.
stronger emotional health and who has a stronger emotional health is taking care of themselves, like has the rest, has that balance, is like more holistic, you know, practices and stuff. Whereas like someone who has a deteriorated emotional health is running dry and they're burnt out and they're frazzled. And it's kind of interesting to me that like somehow that latter is supposed to be more of an emblem of a hard worker and better for our society and running our top positions and flying our planes and stuff. And it's like, oh hell no, I don't want anyone in that category. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, no, I agree. It's funny. A friend of mine, Aaron, who he's a great trial attorney. He's always struck me as just being balanced. It's who he is. He approaches you if you call him, he answers the phone. You don't ever feel like you're rushing him when you're asking him a question. He's just balanced and measured and happy. And I think like, but that's the exception to the rule, I feel like in our profession. You know, people are just tight on time and running 100 miles an hour at all moments. And at some point that will catch up to you.
Yeah.
So
And so for you, you have, your son getting this critical condition. Was that kind of the wake up call to like reassess and reprioritize, or were you already like leaning more into personal development and then that happened at the same time, or how did that kind of work?
I was already leaning into personal development before that. I'd already been, had found my own coach, and I'd already stepped back from a federal job. I'd been at a federal office for quite some time, and it just wasn't working. I love the office, but it wasn't working with what I needed to do at home. And I finally was able to step back and leave that job. Now, for years, I thought about leaving that job. I walked away from federal lifetime healthcare, a pension. Um, and I really believe the personal development work and the alcohol free and all of it is what led me to be in a place where I could do that confidently. So I was already on that path, but I'll tell you, I went on the path late. I mean, right after my youngest son was born, I developed AFib, which is a serious heart condition, very young. 3 months after he was born, I was on the ice playing hockey and thought I was having a heart attack. Rushed to the hospital, diagnosed with AFib, and the heart surgeon says to me, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" And I tell him, and he looks at me dead seriously and says, "You need a new career, like step one." And I just looked at him like he was out of his mind, like, "No, fix this, and I'm going to move on." And I didn't learn. Like, I continued doing what I was doing for 4 more years. So I've been there. I've burned myself out to the point of, there's a genetic component to my health issue, but stress is not your friend with that condition. And so luckily I was successfully, I had a surgical procedure and it was repaired, but that was the beginning. Like, once that happened, and a couple years in, after I finally fixed it and things were getting better, I started to really go like, listen, you can't keep doing this. Like, you have kids to take care of. If your health isn't there, like, what's the lifetime healthcare for if I'm not around to use it? So I was already going down that road. And then really think that once he became that ill, I just had to reassess. I'd open up my own practice thinking that was going to be better, and it was successful, but the stress level wasn't really any better. And I was just continuing on that path of burning, and feeling like, what's wrong with me, right? Like, why can't I do this? I see all these women who are leaning in, and you're supposed to be able to be super successful. And the truth is, you can't do it all. And I think part of it was the culture I grew up in, telling you that you could, and you were a failure if you didn't, or if you complained about it. So once my eyes became open to the fact that that wasn't true, and in fact, nobody was benefiting from that message, now I feel really strongly about impacting other women that are in that place, and hopefully younger, before they, there are health consequences to burning the candle at both ends. Lots of things can go wrong. And so hopefully helping them see that and kind of make those changes earlier than I was able to.
Yeah. I think it's like so sad too, because it's like the passion and the like desire to help, like it's so evident with how you speak about, that previous career. And I think that happens to a lot of people when they go into healthcare, or, they go into, being a lawyer, or all these other things that like in some way do help other people. But the structure itself is just like completely like wears you down and tears you down. And then there's like nothing left. You know what I mean? Like you just said, it's like it was either your life or your career. And that seems so silly. Like, no, I get to have both. But like the doctor's like point blank, do you want to live? Like to him, it's a no-brainer. You know what I mean? Because he's just seen these kind of things so much often before.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, like, how has coaching given you also like this like new path of like having a little bit more of autonomy of deciding like, okay, I'm not going to play with your structures anymore, but you're still like able to benefit from like, okay, I'm going to be coaching people in this world and all this kind of stuff. How has that given you this like newer sense of autonomy?
It's really been wonderful. It's funny. I thought having my own law practice would do that. And it did to some extent, but not really, because I was still answering to judges all the time. And they love to control your schedule. Some of them are wonderful. Some of them are very, very strict and rigid about how they do things. So I have no one to answer to anymore but myself, which is amazing. I make my schedule and I can stick to it. And people ask me when I'm available, and when I'm not, I'm not. And I'm still working because just starting out, these businesses off the ground, I'm obviously working a lot and probably more than I will long term. But it's just given me the ability to really set those hours, stick to those hours, and say no, when it's not right. And the truth is, everyone's fine with that. We can just schedule it next week. And I think I spent so much time thinking everything was an emergency, largely because it was an emergency at my job. And part of what I think is interesting too is that when you're a trial attorney, you are literally always waiting for something to go wrong. You're predicting what's going to go wrong because you need to be ready for that. And that's what makes you a great lawyer. When you go through life doing that, which I was doing, you're always looking at the negative, right? Like what's going to go wrong? And it's now I'm finding myself saying, what's going to go right? Like what is going right? And I'm so much happier doing that. And so I'm doing that with my schedule as well. Like, hey, I've got this thing. Let's be a little flexible. Oh, you know what? You need to move that. Like, that's not going to work. I would not have done that 2 years ago. So it's given me great freedom, a lot more time with my kids because I cut it off and I really try to be done when my son gets out of school every day. And I may go back on later, but I have some quality time with him.
Yeah. I love that. And I've had moments too where I've had like a little bit burnout in this career as well. And I'm like, wait a minute, I put those meetings on my calendar. I decided to take up those projects. Like it's all me, right? So it's really an ability to be like, I do have the autonomy to choose. I can scale back. I can like give myself more rest. I can switch things around or do things differently. That sometimes feels impossible when you are in a structure that like has, like you said, some demands or some something about your time or your projects or just something that gives you less of autonomy in that sense. Okay, so tell us now more about Go Limitless, your retreat company. I can't wait to hear about those trips and the vision for it.
Yes, I'm so excited about this. So I co-founded this with Lori Martin, who's another certified coach. She has a finance background. Our structure is really it's 4 nights, 5 days. Right now, our retreats are based in Costa Rica for a lot of reasons, but partly because I studied abroad in Costa Rica. When my son was sick, I was started meditating, and I was always seeing this beach in Costa Rica that was like dark sand and the jungle and the animals, and it was just the place I would mentally go to when I needed to decompress. So as I was thinking about creating retreats and group coaching and how it's just, I love it, it's so beneficial, we decided we'd be based in Costa Rica. Now, you talk a little bit about like following your intuition and just following the signs and all these things. When we decided where we were hosting these retreats, and Lori and I went on a trip to go actually see the place and meet all the vendors, I kid you not, I walked onto the beach and it was the beach I'd been seeing for 3 years in, these meditations. And it's not some generic beach. It's actually kind of like a weird sort of beach that was clearly the same beach. And I thought, wow, like we are in the right place. So the retreats are awesome. They've got personal development workshops built in throughout, and they include excursions. One like all day excursion. We're going to different places, but volcanoes and hot springs. We then have a signature private boat ride. We're doing a private boat ride with a money mindset seminar that Lori's teaching, which is amazing. And every day there's yoga in the morning and there's sound baths at night. And there are about 10 to 12 women on each retreat. And the idea is that we all work together to get unstuck, and we're all coming there with something. Who knows what? Everybody's got their own struggle. Chances are someone in that group has been where you are. And so we're going to use that collective support and group knowledge to help each other. And the real point of it, and sort of we see this, I don't know, we see it as a movement almost. I have such big visions for where this can go because I think everybody needs this, right? Like who doesn't need that kind of support and that kind of connection? We all lost it during the pandemic and everybody is still stuck on Zoom all the time, right? So the idea is to come together live and really connect and build each other up. And Lori and I are there to lead that and support everybody. And so we're super, super excited about it. Our first retreat is in March, and that's full. And we've got a bunch of retreats scheduled throughout the year. So we will see.
Awesome. Well, we'll be sure to include the link to the website to go check that out and also to your coaching and stuff like that. And I'm so excited. We have a Costa Rica retreat as well that's happening in April. I just got off like a call to just plan everything, like every hour basically of like the agenda. And I just got like so excited by just that feeling of the jungle and just the beautiful wild animals we'll see. There's something so magical about that. And I love how, the type A successful women, it's like if that's a lot of the kind of women that you'll bring in from both your network and the marketing and stuff like that, it really is such a breath of fresh air to finally give yourself permission to step away from a demanding career like that. You know what I mean? And who knows what will
Yeah.
come out of it, and not to be scared of what will come out of it. Like it's purely your intuition that will keep guiding you to more happiness and fulfillment. So I can't wait for that.
Yeah, that's what I say too. I think it doesn't mean you have to change your job, right? But maybe you need to shift something in what you're doing to find more balance. There are so many ways to find balance. And so that's what we're hoping to do, is to help women figure it out for themselves, but give themselves the space to actually do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, amazing. Have a lot of fun. And I love this conversation, Tracy. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Can you imagine a year from now, you're growing a successful coaching business and leading a retreat in some beautiful tropical country in this world? That's why I'm so impressed and just inspired by Tracy Frederick. She joined the Empowered AF Coach Certification Program in the 2023 cohort, and this is her reality today. If this is the kind of lifestyle you're interested in, you want to help more people, and you're getting burnt out by the typical structures of more corporate or traditional workforce, coaching is such an incredible avenue to not only help other people, but also decide to have your own career autonomy, set your own hours. I promise you, it is not a get rich quick scheme. There's hard work involved, and there's a lot of incredible resilience and grit you'll discover within yourself on the journey. But if you're interested in getting 5X certified, that's 5 different certifications, I highly encourage you to check out the Empowered AF Coach Certification Program. It is an ICF approved accredited program that stands for the International Coaching Federation, which is the gold standard in coaching accreditations. And you get certified as a mindset coach, an alcohol-free coach, a success coach, a NLP practitioner, which stands for neuro-linguistic programming, and a hypnotherapist. So really a life-changing coach that's able to work with so many different modalities to help people not only ditch alcohol, but also really find themselves, self-discover what they want out of life and go after it, which is really the point. We'd love to see you. Not only does the certification include those 5 different modalities that you'll get certified in, we have an in-house personal retreat that will happen. So what that means is that your tuition includes a weekend retreat. It's a business retreat where we really step in and embody into the successful, impactful entrepreneurs that you're meant to be. And everything from the food, the lodging, the training, any fun activities, it's all included in the tuition. Plus, we also move into a 4-month business mastermind after that in order to teach you everything that I've learned about growing a successful coaching company, from attracting clients, from, really building a platform, from getting on podcasts, all that good fun stuff. Our next cohort starts March 28th. And we are accepting applications and having interviews right now. So if you're interested in this program, please do not wait. We do have a class size that we will not be going over. So be sure to get your application in, set up an interview with me. And then if you've already had that interview, be sure to be able to make a decision. We'd love to see you join fairly quickly. There is some pre-work involved that would be super helpful for you to go through. But I think that if this has spoken to your heart and you know that you want to help people and that you want to, really find a career path that aligns with your bigger vision and bigger goals in life and allows you to have more of that work-life balance and that autonomy, and or if you want to deepen your coaching skills, if you've already gotten a coaching certification maybe a few years ago, but you really want to learn these new modalities to make even more impact and life-changing transformations happen for your clients, you got to check it out. I'll see you in the link in bio. You can go to www.becomeeuphoric.com/certification or check out the link in bio. We'd love to see an application from you, and feel free to ask any questions. All right, lovely. Have a great rest of your day. If this episode was helpful, please feel free to share it with a friend. If you know some defense attorneys that you'd love to share this with, please do. And if you could rate and review the podcast, that would mean so much to me. It's really impactful to help other women find the show. And, we want to just keep growing the show. We want to keep bringing better and better and much like really incredible, inspiring guests onto the show. And the only way we're able to do that is to get even the level of attraction, the level of ability to sway people of influence like that is to keep growing this podcast. So subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Be sure to rate and review if you haven't already. And I cannot wait for our next season really unfolding for 2024. I'm really excited about it. We have some really great guests lined up already. All right, beautiful. Have a great rest of your day.